What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Jungle Cup, and the team we're taking a look at today is Incineroar, Amoonguss, and Ferrothorn. Now the main focus of today's video is going to be Incineroar because I had so much fun with this Pokemon live on stream. These battles are going to be taken from my live stream, so the quality might be a little bit lower, but Incineroar was actually a ton of fun in the Jungle Cup. And the right moveset you definitely want to run on this Pokemon is Fire Fang over Snarl. For some reason, Snarl is the recommended moveset on PvP, but as you're going to notice, Fire Fang only picks up 3 matchups and has no downsides. So definitely the way to go. Also has a higher average. So definitely want to run Fire Fang in this meta. This is definitely not a team I would use to climb in the Jungle Cup, but it is one that I had fun core breaking the meta with. So without further ado, let's take a look at some battles. Alright, heading into the first match, we've got Incineroar into Golisopod. Now this is an okay lead. Fire Fang is neutral. Fury Cutters are only neutral as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw 5 Fire Fangs and then pivot into my Amoonguss in order to get the catch. I do end up getting the catch of the Aqua Jet, and in comes an Ice Fang Hippowdon in the back. Hippowdon will be baited here with a foul play, farming up like I have the Grass Knot, and the opponent will respect it with a shield, and then they throw energy, but they throw on alignment. So you know what? I'm going to put up a shield as I know I can make it to another Grass Knot, and Grass Knot would be enough to flip switch and pick up the knockout or grab a second shield from the opponent, and that's exactly what's going to happen. We grab 2 shields from the opponent. They do get the full Ice Fang farm down, which means they leave with a Weather Ball loaded and a little bit of residual energy. So what I have to do now is I have to overfarm in this matchup and then look to pick up the knockout with the Brutal Swing on the CMB tie. Now I have overfarmed and we have caught on the Golisopod, which means they are energy dry. So back in comes the Golisopod, but they're going to get outpaced, end up going for the catch. The opponent goes for the catch at the exact same time, but they've got a Piloswine in the back, so they instantly resign the match, and we are able to take that win. Very difficult lead in the next match, kind of a core breaker to this entire team. We've got Amoonguss coming in on the safe swap, and the reason I like to come in Amoonguss here right away is because you actually get to the foul play at the exact same time as they get to the sky attack because of that 1-turn switch, which by doing so really desyncs the timers, because as you're going to see, the opponent threw at the exact moment that they got there, maybe trying to outpace, which means 2 charge moves are thrown, really desyncing the timers, and now in comes Credilli. Credilli will be hit with a Grass Knot. They're going to look for a full acid farm down, and I think they're going to get it, but Amoonguss has put in a good amount of work getting them into the red, and now in comes Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn completely walls the opponent's energy here, which means we can just tank these Rock Tombs absolutely no problem. The opponent throws back to back as well without overfarming at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tank this resisted Rock Tomb, come back in with the Incineroar, look for the Fire Fang farm down, and we do in fact get it. The opponent must have still been locked in that matchup. Now, are they going to come back in with that Altaria? No, they're going to show me their third, and their third is a Clodsire. Clodsire will be hit with a Blast Burn on the CMP tie with a potential Stone Edge, and this will do some massive damage unless my opponent commits a shield. So they do actually end up committing a shield, so you better believe I'm going to be shielding right back. It is the Stone Edge that comes through. I am worried that my opponent might outpace. Actually, looks like we will get to the charge move. I can overfarm a little bit, go for the catch onto the Ferrothorn, and we actually managed to sneak a Bullet Seed in there. I'm not really sure how that happened, but back in comes the Altaria. I can overfarm a little bit because they did throw on the CMP tie last time, which means they are energy dry. Thunder is neutral damage, but they can live it fairly comfortably. The opponent now will look to pick up the knockout, but now that I've got them in range where a Brutal Swing will KO, I will just let this go because the opponent does not overfarm and the Clodsire is energy dry. So now back in comes the Incineroar. Incineroar makes it to back-to-back Brutal Swings. Brutal Swing number 1 grabs the final shield from the opponent, and now here comes Brutal Swing number 2. This will be enough to pick up the knockout on the Altaria, and now it's a race. Blast Burn versus 2 Stone Edges, and you better believe I'm getting to this Blast Burn considering they were energy dry, and Blast Burn is massive overkill. Incineroar roaring with rage, knocking out the Clodsire, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Incineroar into Toucannon. So this is another okay lead, as it's just entirely neutral. Fortunately, Fire Fangs do a little bit more damage than Pex in this matchup, so I can just commit a shield on the Rock Blast and then probably just look to farm them down in the 2 shield scenario. 1 Brutal Swing, I will throw it just to make sure that I grab at least 1 shield back from my opponent, and now they are going to go for Rock Blast number 2. This is totally fine with me. I'm just going to look for a full farm down with Fire Fangs, and my opponent is going to let that happen, which is really nice. In comes a Furret in the back, for it will be hit with a blast burn. This will hit for massive damage unless they commit a shield. Is the opponent willing to put up a shield in this matchup? Yes, they are. So now no shields are remaining in this matchup. I'm unable to make it to blast burn number 2 before they get the full sucker punch farm down, which is okay because Brutal Swing does some solid chip, and now Ferrothorn is a complete wall to energy from the opponent. In comes the Ferrothorn. The opponent instantly resigns the match, and we are able to take that win. Not Ferrothorn, Furo on the lead in the next match. So very similar flyer lead that we just saw in the first match, and I'm going to play it out the exact same way. The opponent doesn't even farm up to a drill run here, but drill peck will still do some massive damage to the Incineroar. So now I'm going to go for the Brutal Swing right before they make it to drill peck number 2, and it looks like Furo has slightly better bulk than the 2 cannon, but we should still be able to get the farm down. The opponent is not going to let that happen. In comes a Gastrodon in the back, but Gastrodon will be met with the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn, of course, a complete wall to energy from the Gastrodon, as Gastrodon is running Body Slam plus Water Pulse this season, which means they do not have that neutral earth power for coverage. Here comes a Power Whip to pick up knockout on the Gastrodon. Down it goes, and now back in comes the Furo. Furo, threatened by a Thunder, is forced to throw their energy. They will go for the Drill Peck in order to pick up the knockout, but now in comes the Incineroar. Incineroar looking for the full farm down. Looks like we did get one turn lag on bringing, but that is okay, as we can put up a shield. Look for the full farm down. In the back is a Shadow Scissor. 5 Fire Fangs completely knocked them out, and now it's a race. Fast move, Astonish versus Peck. They get to a final charge move. This is a super effective Drill Peck. Can Amoonguss hang on? It's a very bulky Pokemon, and it does add 1 HP in the red, but the Astonish takes out the Furo, and we are able to take that win. Another core breaker on the lead in the next match. We've got Miltank with super effective rollouts and resisting the Astonishes on the Amoonguss, and they do have potential to have the super effective Ice Beam for coverage, but in comes Talonflame. Talonflame is a hard punish to the Amoonguss, but at least we have neutral Astonishes and foul plays for this matchup. The opponent actually ends up giving me a shield, which is huge, and now here comes foul play number 2, grabbing 2 shields from the opponent. They're trying to run with this Talonflame, but no, they end up throwing energy as well. They will still be able to outpace me to 2 more charge moves on the Talonflame, but the fact that they threw energy is absolutely perfect, because otherwise I would have to give up 2 shields. They end up baiting with a flame charge. Back in comes the Miltank, but Miltank not going to make it to a charge move before I'm able to get the catch onto my Ferrothorn. Now, did we get the Body Slam catch? No, we got a Thunderbolt catch from my opponent. Maybe they are a double nuke Miltank. That would be interesting. And seeing as they are overfarming in this matchup, I think we've got an Ice Beam coming our way soon, but Power Whip connects. That does some pretty decent neutral damage. And I know I can live any 1 charge move here, so I will just let this go and save my shields for Incineroar. I'm looking for the overfarm. Back in comes the no. Ooh, I thought it was the Talonflame that came back in. I ended up throwing the Thunder. It's a Toedscruel that triple resists the Thunder, and that is a huge misplay on my part. And will that cost me this game? We're about to find out. We now can connect with a Power Whip. Back in comes the Incineroar. Incineroar only going to take 1 super effective Mud Slap here, but I have to throw the Brutal Swing because I need to come out with a little bit of energy, but Brutal Swing is not enough to knock out, which means the opponent will make it to a wrap, and I believe they have the energy they need for a potential Thunderbolt on the Miltank. I do commit the shield, and they do have that energy for it, so unfortunately, I don't think with our defense low and we're hanging on. We actually do on 1 HP. Back in comes the Talonflame. Talonflame will be hit with a neutral Brutal Swing. It is stab. It picks up the knockout on the Talonflame. Back in comes the Ferrothorn, but Ferrothorn will be outpaced by 1 single turn thanks to that switch, and unfortunately Ice Beam does pick up the knockout, and they are not in 1 Fire Fang range, which means they get the rollout Fire turn, and we do end up losing that game on 1 HP despite a tough lead. Decent lead in the next match. We've got Incineroar into Morpeko. It's only a good lead because Thundershock doesn't do that much damage, and these Fire Fangs really add up. And of course, I'm going to go for an Aura Wheel catch onto Amoonguss where it is resisted, but the opponent baited with a double resist Psychic Fangs. We end up catching it onto Amoonguss where it is super effective. The opponent stays in this matchup though to throw more energy, and this is only enough for a Psychic Fang, so I will just let this go. That does do some pretty solid chip, but it puts us deep into the red, and now in comes a Clodsire in the back. They definitely did not need to lower my defense twice before coming in with the Clodsire, but that is okay. We can now connect with a Grass Knot. That is some solid neutral chip, and it puts them nearly at half HP. And now I'm assuming I can just come in with the Ferrothorn here to absorb this energy, and that's exactly what's going to happen. I can even tank a neutral Earthquake. That is a-okay. I know that as long as Incineroar has shields, the Morpeko is energy dry, so I should be in a pretty good position. Power Whip will connect. It puts them deep into the red health range. They will throw their energy right away. I know I can live this, so I am just going to let this go. And now in comes Incineroar. Incineroar going to look for a full Fire Fang farm down, and we are going to get it. That is absolutely massive. If that Morpeko comes back in, I'm going to overfarm as much as possible. Go for the Brutal Swing to pick up the knockout. This is resisted damage, but it should be enough to pick up the knockout on the Glassy Morpeko from this range, and it does. In the back is a Diggersby. Now this is a tricky situation to be in, but no baits here. I'm full sending the Blast Burn. This will do huge damage, but the opponent does end up putting up a shield. And now it's going to come down to a 50-50 bait call, whether my opponent calls the bait on the Blast Burn, or if I full send a Blast Burn and they end up no shielding. Either way, it's going to be a tricky situation. I'm going to go straight Blast Burn. I'm hoping that they no shield this, expecting a Brutal Swing bait, and that's exactly what they do. Blast Burn connects. We get the Fire Fang farm down of the Diggersby, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, we've got another Altaria. Just this core breaker is absolutely everywhere. In comes the Amoonguss, and the opponent instead is actually going to pivot into Golisopod. I don't know what my opponent does if they see a Dedenne lead, but either way, we're going to go for a foul play bait, and the opponent ends up calling that bait. Grass Knot would have done pretty huge damage to the Golisopod. I probably would have been easily able to flip switch, but I guess my opponent recognizing maybe I don't need to flip switch in this matchup. I'm now going to go for the foul play. Foul play will probably nearly knock them out. It puts them at 1 HP, but they do make it to one final charge move. And like I said, I really can't commit a shield in order to flip switch here, because Ferrothorn takes double super effective damage from the flamethrowers from Altaria. So instead, I'm going to come in with the Ferrothorn, get a nice energy lead. So if that Altaria comes back in, they will be hit with a Thunder, but they did have a little bit of residual energy here. They are going to go for the charge move right as I get to my charge move, and they end up baiting with a Sky Attack. A little bit unfortunate, but now I can look to overfarm in this matchup and look to connect with a neutral Thunder. Fortunately, Dragon Breaths are resisted, so we mostly just have to worry about their charge moves. I'm about to make it to another charge move, but the opponent once again outpacing me by one single turn, making it to the double super effective flamethrower, and we do get that shield call correct. It's rare that you see me double shielding the Ferrothorn and leaving 0 shields for the Incineroar, and I think that might be my downfall in this game. But now we've grabbed a shield. Can we get that flamethrower catch? No, we cannot. In comes the Incineroar. Incineroar will be hit with a neutral Sky Attack, but this shouldn't knock us out in one single blow, and it doesn't. But in the back is a Credilli. Credilli will be able to make it to the super effective Rock Tomb, but I'm going to go for the Blast Burn, trying to throw on the CMP tie, but my opponent does not fall for it. They overfarm. They no shield that as well, but I've put them deep into the red, and now I see a win con, and that win con is fully Bullet Seed, farming down the Credilli, and coming out with nearly back-to-back Thunders. It's the only way I'm going to be able to outpace the opponent, but if they throw a Rock Tomb, this farm down is going to be painfully slow. But back in comes the Altaria. They give me the potential win con that I need. As long as I can make it to back-to-back Thunders, I can win this game. It's going to be close. The opponent makes it to the charge move right before I get there. Is this the flamethrower? No, it's just the Sky Attack, but Sky Attack is still neutral damage. It picks up the knockout on the Ferrothorn, and unfortunately we do lose that game. Another Morpeko on the lead in the next match, and we are going to play this out the exact same way, going for 5 Fire Fangs, pivoting into the Amoonguss, and getting the catch. Did the opponent go for the bait once again, or is this an Aura Wheel? This is the Aura Wheel, which is super nice. Getting that Aura Wheel catch is huge. The opponent, he's going to stay in, rebank a little bit of energy, and then in comes Mandibuzz. My opponent has absolutely no respect for Wigglytuff in this meta. That is actually crazy. But I am completely walled in this matchup, so unfortunately I am stuck just, straight Sky Attack. Straight Grass Knot. They do go for the Aerial Ace on the CMP tie. It looks like I might be able to make it to another Grass Knot. No, unfortunately I do just go down here. Incineroar is going to have to take a neutral charge move here. Aerial Ace is really not that threatening, so I will just end up letting that go, and then I will look to connect with the Blast Burn in order to pick up the knockout on the bulky Mandibuzz. Here comes the Blast Burn. It nearly knocks them out. One more Fire Fang does the job, and if that Morpeko comes back in, you better believe I'm going to do the exact same thing. But no, it's a Stun Fisk in the back. I can still do the same thing. The opponent is ABA weak to ground as well. The double electric typing, but now back in comes the Morpeko. I know I can live a resisted Aura Wheel here, so I will let this go. I'm going to commit in 2 Shield Incineroar like I usually do. I know I can live that, and now here comes a Power Whip. This is neutral damage. It will easily knock out the Morpeko unless they commit a shield, and they do actually commit a shield here. They're looking to connect with another Aura Wheel. which will be enough to knock out unless they bait with a Psychic Fangs, and the opponent does bait with a Psychic Fangs, which means now in comes the Incineroar looking for the full farm down. They get to another Psychic Fangs, but I think it would do just too much. Even though it's double resisted and not a very good move, it would lower my defense, and with that little bit of chip, I think they'd be able to fully Thundershock farm me down. And even without that chip, it looks like I'm not going to get to 2 moves, so I have to bait here. I'm going for the Brutal Swing, but they call the bait, and unfortunately, I think that seals my fate in this game. I just cannot get to 2 more charge moves, as the opponent will be able to outpace me if they get this farm down. They are at this point 1 Thundershock away from a Mud Bomb, and I think I'm 1 bullet seed away, but 2 turns versus 3 turns means the opponent does outpace. They make it to the Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb knocks out the Ferrothorn, and unfortunately we do lose that game. Into the next match, we've got Incineroar into Clodsire. So this is another neutral lead, but the opponent has double super effective coverage with both Stone Edge and Earthquake in this matchup. So I'm going to go for the catch of the Stone Edge onto Amoonguss, where it is only neutral. Stone Edge connects. It does some okay chip, but Amoonguss lives that very comfortably, and the opponent is insistent on staying in, which is really, really nice, because now the switch timers are misaligned, and I don't really have to worry about Incineroar on the Clodsire later in this match. I am now going to go for a Grass Knot, as this is stab damage. It does some pretty good chip. I'm able to make it to the foul play as well, but the opponent will throw their energy, as I would be able to get there. The opponent goes for the Stone Edge. In comes the Incineroar looking for the full farm down. Not sure if I'd be able to get it, so I go for the Brutal Swing, as that was 6 more Poison Stings, and it's only 6 on that cycle to the Stone Edge. The opponent comes in with a Greninja in the back, but Greninja will be hit with a resisted Blast Burn. This will still do huge damage, as Greninja is extremely glassy, and now in comes Ferrothorn. Greninja throws 1 more Water Shuriken, and then the charge move. They end up going for a resisted Hydro Cannon instead of the Night Slash, and in the back is Meowscarada. Meowscarada is a complete wall to energy from the Ferrothorn, which is very unfortunate, but Meowscarada is extremely glassy. Their leafages are double resisted. They have to go straight Night Slash in this matchup, as Frenzy Plant is double resisted as well, and 2 Night Slashes look like they will be able to knock out. If the opponent throws this energy, I need to put up a shield and then instantly pivot into my Incineroar and bank all that energy. Back in comes the Incineroar. We get the full Fire Fang farm down. That is absolutely massive. Back in comes the Greninja, but we make it to the Blast Burn, able to outpace the opponent by 1 turn. That is absolutely huge. Blast Burn grabs the final shield from the opponent, which means this game is over, because I already have the Power Whip loaded. We come back in, we lose CMP, but because we have thrown on the CMP tie, this game is over. Even though they're at the back-to-back charge moves, they're only getting it 1 off, as Power Whip is super effective damage. It knocks out the Greninja, and we are able to take that win. Into the final match of the video, we've got Incineroar into Magnezone. So this is a good lead, as Fire Fang is super effective damage, and Volt Switches, they add up, but they're not super effective. I end up going for the Wild Charge catch on the Amoonguss, and that is absolutely huge, as that is resisted, but in comes a Togekiss, a complete wall to energy from the Amoonguss, but my opponent might not know that. They might not know I am not running Sludge Bomb, so I build up to 5, I throw the Grass Knot, we end up grabbing a shield. That is absolutely massive. But now the opponent has so much energy. They're at 100 energy, and both of my remaining Pokemon take super effective damage from the Aura Sphere here, which means this game is pretty much sealed. There's virtually no way to come back from it. But you know what? I'm going to do my best. They're already at the back-to-back, so I have to commit 2 shields here, and then I'm going to have to overfarm and look for a catch out of this matchup of a super effective Aura Sphere onto our Ferrothorn in the back, trusting that Incineroar has play into their final Pokemon. The opponent is going to stay in though, and now look to pick up the knockout with the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere will easily knock us out from this range, and now I just have to look for the full Fire Fang farm down. Can we get it? Yes, we can. That is nice. We come out loaded with energy, but in the back is an Altaria, which means this game is most definitely over, as Fire Fang and Blast Burn are both resisted. I'm forced to go for Brutal Swings in this matchup, and even 3 of them are not enough to knock out, and it looks like my opponent knows this. They let 1 go, they let 2. Here comes a 3rd already. But unfortunately for me, this is not enough to knock out. The opponent even lets it go. They look for the full Dragon Breath farm down, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But yeah, that was Incineroar. in the Jungle Cup. I had so much fun running this Pokemon live on stream, and I believe I went 7-3 in this matchup, which really isn't that bad considering how low this Pokemon is ranked. I was just looking for something to deal with Scizor. I knew as soon as I ran this team I was going to struggle with Altaria. It's the #1 ranked Pokemon. You have to expect to see it everywhere. So maybe you could build a better team around Incineroar. I will say though that Ferrothorn felt like it had really decent play in this meta. So if you're looking for another team, maybe Ferrothorn is a fun core breaker that you could look into. But other than that, I do want to wrap up this video by saying thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel: Benny Hemlock, Dr. Mustache, Eliana, Perry G, Blue Nation, Peter Rushworth, Alright 504, Trumpus Clips, and Sons of Code, as well as an extra special thank you to the legend trainer members on this channel: Andrew Pitten, Musachu, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, Fast Diddy Boss, CD Slaskus, and Star Bonsai. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace!